Have you seen the price of gas lately? You know, as cheap as I am, I generally don't pay too much attention to fuel mileage when it comes to muscle cars and hot rods, that sort of thing. But I tell you what, I just topped the tank off on this thing for 75 bucks. And I'm like, that stings a little bit. I think I better do something about the gas mileage on this. So just some background. It's a 800 CFM Edelbrock. It's a manual choke Edelbrock, and this is important to know because manual choke carburetors and automatic choke carburetors are calibrated differently from the factory. The manual choke ones are a little bit fatter. They'll feed a little bit more fuel to the motor. They're intended for more of a hardcore application, where the electric choke ones are generally leaner. But nevertheless, when I put this carburetor on this engine, the first thing I did was make a couple of full runs with it, hard runs with it, and then did plug reads. You know, shut the engine at the end, coast, pull a couple of plugs out, and the color was like just about perfect. You know, just a darker kind of tan. Like, leave it alone. But what I noticed was after cruising it for a while, a couple of miles of just, you know, driving around, regular driving, that I pulled the plugs and they were kind of blackish. Not to the point that they were carbon fouling, but to where you can see, it's using a significant amount of fuel. And as a result, this thing gets, like 12, 13 miles to the gallon, mixed use. So that's not going to stand with the price where it is now, and it's probably going to go higher, right? So I'm going to have to do something about the cruising characteristics, the fuel curve at cruise. I'm going to take some fuel away because we know that wide open throttle is good. So let's do an overview of these carburetors. These Carter, Edelbrock, and Weber. Weber made them for World 2. AFB and AVS style carburetors. So this covers from like 1958 until today. You're talking about a lot of carburetors. And the thing you need to know about these is that they all share a common metering rod system. The metering rods are completely accessible and the parts are interchangeable. So this is going to apply across the board. Now, while I can't tell you specifically how to tune your exact engine for maximum results, I can give you an overview of how it all works, show you what you need to do and what you need to look out for, and how to make seat of the pants evaluations. So now I've already done it on this car. I wasn't intending to make this video, but like I said, I figured if I'm thinking fuel mileage, a bunch of you guys must be doing it too. Now, everything I show you here is going to be common to all metering rod style carburetors. So your Carter 2 barrels, Quadrajets. Quadrajets are metering rod style carburetors. But the difference is on those, you can't access the primary metering rods without taking the carburetor apart. So there's a disadvantage there, but the principles apply the same. Hollies, right out of the park. There are absolutely no meaningful tuning changes that you can make to a Holly on the fly or on the side of the road or where you're pumping gas. There's nothing. You've got to disassemble a Holly to make any meaningful changes to it. These carburetors, on the other hand, are magic, which is why I stick with them, well, lots of reasons. But one of the main reasons why I stick with them for anything that I drive on the street. So, before we get into the actual systems, you're going to need some stuff, okay? And this is, well, this is not representative of what you would buy new. This has been bouncing around in trunks for, I don't know, for years. But this started out as a tuning kit from Edelbrock for these carburetors. If you buy a new one, it's going to come with an assortment of metering rods, jets, these springs right here, which are important to this function, and we'll get to that in a few minutes. It'd be a lot nicer and neater than this. This one's been folded, spindled, and mutilated numerous times. But these will still set you back about 60, 70 bucks. You can get them through Amazon or you can get them straight through Edelbrock. But it'll come with basically everything you need. Or if you're just looking to make the most minor of changes, you can get sets of metering rods, packages of metering rods that come like 6 to a set, and then springs, these springs, for like 16 bucks off of Amazon. So you're going to need an assortment before you go any further. You're also going to need a way to measure. Right? It was all very simple, very straightforward stuff. So here's what you need to know. All of these carburetors have metering rods, and the metering rods are hidden under these screws, right, or these plates. So you loosen this screw, 1/4 inch wrench, you slide this out of the way, and underneath it, you see you've got this piston and the metering rod right there, and they slide right out. Okay. This is what the assembly looks like inside the carburetor. So here's your piston, your spring, metering rod, and then the main jet. And the main jet is screwed into the floor of the carburetor. So these things are vacuum operated. And the way it works is, at rest, the spring is pushing the piston up and pulling the metering rod out. As soon as you start the engine, vacuum overcomes the spring, pulls this piston down, pulls the metering rod down deeper into the jet. So now it's going to be positioned like that. Each of these rods has steps. So you see it's thin at the tip and it's thick over here. Under acceleration, when there's low vacuum and the spring pushes up on that piston, this tip, the narrow part, is in the jet, and so it allows maximum fuel flow. When vacuum builds up, so after, let's say, you achieve a steady cruise at idle or a steady cruise, there's high vacuum, this piston overcomes the spring and pushes the rod down into the fat part of the metering rod, and that bleeds off fuel. Does that make any sense? All right, so I'll show you these things in action so you see what it actually looks like. Let's plug our ballast resistor in. Okay. Now, watch the pistons. So you see, as soon as the engine started, vacuum pulled the pistons down, overcame the spring, pulled the piston down, and now the fat part of the metering rod is in the jet. Well, watch what happens when we give it gas. So that's how that works. When the throttle is open and vacuum falls off, the spring pushes the jet, or pushes the piston up, the metering rod pulls out of the jet to expose the narrowest part, the skinniest part, and you get maximum fuel flow. So now, in our situation, we know that the full throttle fuel flow is just about dead on. I don't want to mess with it. But it's our cruising. So we need to change the metering rods. We need to put a thicker metering rod. We want to maintain the skinny end, because the skinny end is our performance end, but we need a thicker rod for cruising. So, and that's where an assortment of metering rods comes in. So what we did was we measured the small end, the skinny end of the metering rods that were in there, and we found that they were 41 thousandths of an inch each, and we're going to leave that. The thicker end was like 71 thousandths. Now I found a set here that were 42 thousandths on the thinner side, so we're 1 thousandth of an inch larger. It'll cut off a little bit, a tiny bit of the fuel flow, full throttle fuel flow, but we're 4 thousandths of an inch larger in the thicker part. So that's going to bleed off a pretty significant amount of fuel, or prevent a pretty significant amount of fuel from making its way through the jet during that cruising state. Did that make any sense? I hope that made sense. You may have to watch that a couple of times. I'm not even really sure what I said, to be perfectly honest with you. So that's what we did here. Now, if you're going to attempt this yourself and you're going to do it seat of the pants, like I said, you have to be able to run your engine out at a steady state cruise, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 miles an hour, and it's going to be dead even. Now what you're looking for is, as you increase the diameter of the metering rod, thus preventing some of that fuel, reducing the fuel flow through the jet, when you get to a point that it's too lean, it's going to start to surge. Okay, you'll feel it. It'll be very slight. It's not even the kind of thing you'll catch on camera unless it's extreme. You do it enough times over the course of your life, and you know what you're feeling. Okay, so you keep increasing the metering rod diameter until you start to feel a surge at steady cruise. At that point, you've gone too far, and that's why you need a real good assortment of metering rods. You can achieve pretty good results with just the generic kits, but if you're really serious about tuning these carburetors, like if this is like a way of life and you're going to be the computer, well then you need an assortment. You need the range. If you're dealing with carburetors from the 1960s, 1970s that were original equipment on factory cars, they're going to be very specifically calibrated, tuned to the package that they were in. So those carburetors are generally going to be pretty spot on. If you're dealing with a stock engine, they're going to be pretty spot on just right out of the box. But in the case of mixing and matching, you may find that you need to fatten them or lean them, as the case may be. When you get to the aftermarket versions of these carburetors, like the Weber ones and the Edelbrock ones, they're not calibrated very specifically. They're kind of like an average. And like I said, the manual choke ones are jetted or calibrated fatter than the automatic choke ones. So that's something to keep in mind. But you do want a big assortment, as big an assortment of metering rods as you can get. I make it a habit of anytime I come across like a junk Edelbrock or a Carter or whatever, I suck the metering rods out and stash them. I've got tons of them back at the house. I don't have too many of them here. But the changes that I made with this, increasing the small diameter by 1,000th and the big diameter by 4,000th, I took it for a ride and it seems just so much cleaner at cruise. No sign of surging or anything like that. I imagine that if I went a little bit bigger, if I went like 6 thousandths or so larger, I might experience that surging. So, and that's what you want to do. You want to keep going. You want to keep increasing the diameter. This doesn't, we're not talking about for the small side, for the power side. We're talking about the thicker side for the cruising. You want to keep increasing the diameter until you start to get a surge. And then once you get a surge, go back 2 thousandths of an inch on that diameter. And that's going to get you as close to dialed in as you're going to get with one of these carburetors. Now also, I should have mentioned this before, these springs have an effect also. And when you get one of these kits, it's going to come with an assortment of springs. The heavier the spring, the fatter or the richer the overall profile of the carburetor is going to be. The thinner the spring, the leaner it's going to be. So I pulled out 2 heavy springs that were in there and I dropped in 2 lighter springs. And again, on the test ride, it was just about perfect. So I'm done. Luckily enough with this, it was just one quick shot, 1 set of metering rods on 1 set of springs, and I'm happy with this. It should pick up a couple of miles per gallon, 2-3 miles per gallon. And every little bit counts with something like this. But I'm content. You may want to play around. Actually, it's a good practice to play around and go too far in any direction so you know what the parameters are and you narrow it down to where your particular package works best, where it's happiest. So that's it. A quick, simple, mile per gallon tuning guide for your Edelbrock, Carter, and Weber style AFBs and AVSs. I hope you got something out of that. Go tweak yourself some gas mileage. I'll see you tomorrow. So I was just shooting a video on tuning Edelbrock carburetors for fuel economy, and there was all kinds of commotion going on out here. And my neighbors, well, they were working on this thing over here, which is a, well, it's a go-kart. And Billy is the pusher. So what is this thing exactly?
It's a man-powered go-kart. We make it for our internship competitions at work.
Okay. And so we're testing this right now.
Yes, this is test run. The race is on Friday, so we have to make sure that it's going to run smoothly.
Okay. Well, being the only experienced drag racer in the lot, I figured, well, I'll be the test monkey on this thing. And we have our starter down there, 100 feet away. And you're going to shoot this whole thing?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, here you go.
Okay. One, two.
Go, baby, go! What we run?
10 seconds.
10 seconds.
Hey.
Wait, we didn't have a timer out here.
That's right.
Yeah, we need these guys.
All right, so that was a warm-up run. We were just getting it going here. We got to get a time run. The best run so far is what?
10.38.
10.38. We can beat that.
Okay.
All right, hang on. We'll get a timer out here and try it again.